The sensors on the Krillian research vessel started screaming at 3 in the morning, ship time. Commander Vex rolled out of his sleeping pod and stumbled to the bridge, his scales still dim from sleep. His crew was already there, staring at their displays with expressions that mixed confusion with fear. "What am I looking at?" Vex asked, rubbing his eyes with his clawed hands. His science officer, a nervous young male named Doran, pointed at the main screen. "Sir, it's coming from the Forbidden Zone. From Earth. Earth, the dead world. The planet every species in the galaxy knew to avoid, though few remembered why anymore. It had been marked as forbidden for 10,000 years, since long before his grandparents had been born." "That's impossible," Vex said. "Nothing lives there. Nothing has lived there for millennia." "I know, sir," Doran said, his voice shaking slightly, "but something is powering up. Something big." Across the ship, alarms began to sound. Vex looked at the energy readings and felt his heart skip a beat. Whatever was waking up beneath Earth's surface was putting out more power than his entire fleet combined. "Get me the Galactic Council," Vex ordered. "Now." While his communications officer worked, Vex stared at the image of Earth on his screen. It looked peaceful from this distance, a blue and green marble wrapped in white clouds. Oceans covered most of it. The land masses showed signs of ancient cities, all crumbling now, reclaimed by forests and deserts. No lights, no signals, just ruins and nature. His people had built their civilization partly on human ruins. They had found incredible technology scattered across a dozen worlds that humans had briefly visited before vanishing. Star drives, medical devices, computing systems that still worked after 10,000 years. Nobody knew how humans had made such things. The extinct species had been labeled primitive in the old records, barely capable of space travel, yet they had marked their own homeworld as forbidden. Why would any species do that? "Sir, the Council is responding," the communications officer said. "They want us to investigate but maintain maximum distance." Vex laughed bitterly. Maximum distance. They're light years away, giving orders. We're right here. Still, he was curious. In his cabin, he kept a small human artifact he had found as a child on a dig site. It was just a picture frame showing a human family. 2 adults, 3 small children, all smiling at whoever had held the camera. Their faces were so expressive, so full of warmth. He had spent hours as a youth wondering what had happened to them. "Take us in," Vex ordered. Slowly, very slowly. The ship moved toward Earth like a mouse approaching a sleeping cat. As they got closer, the sensors refined their data. The energy source was under the Pacific Ocean, buried deep in the planetary crust. Then young Kira, the Zenthari archaeologist they had brought along, gasped from her station. "Commander, I'm detecting a structure. It's enormous. The size of a small moon, and it's completely artificial." Vex asked. "No, sir," Kira said, her voice filled with awe. "It's rising, breaking through the ocean floor right now." On the screen, the Pacific Ocean began to boil. Massive plumes of steam rose into the atmosphere as something unimaginably large pushed its way up from below. The ship's sensors went wild trying to measure it. And then, across every communication frequency, a sound began. At first, Vex thought it was interference, but Kira identified it immediately. "Those are warning beacons," she said, pulling up ancient human texts on her display. "Old human warnings. I've seen fragments of them in dig sites." The message came through in hundreds of languages, most of them dead now. But the computer translated the primary version into modern galactic standard Guardian Protocol active. "Threat assessment in progress. Maintain distance. This is an automated human defense system." "Defense against what?" Doran whispered. "There's no one left to defend." The ocean's surface broke apart as the structure emerged. At first, Vex thought it was a ship, but as more of it became visible, he realized it was something else entirely. It was shaped like a human warrior from ancient times, a figure in armor, standing upright, with a face that looked almost alive, despite being made of metal and energy. It rose higher and higher, water cascading off its massive form. When it finally stopped rising, it stood at the edge of space, one foot still planted on the ocean floor, the other on a continental shelf. The figure was over 300 meters tall. Its eyes were dark at first. Then, slowly, they began to glow with a brilliant blue light. Vex watched in horror and fascination as the giant's head turned, scanning the sky. Scanning space, its gaze seemed to pass right through his ship, reading it, analyzing it, cataloging it. "It's looking at us," Doran said, his voice barely a whisper. Kira was frantically searching through her databases. "I found references to this in the human legends. They called them Guardians. Protectors that humans built to watch over their interests in the galaxy. I always thought they were myths. The Guardian's eyes brightened. Then it spoke, and its voice boomed across every frequency, in every language, impossible to ignore, analyzing galactic status, scanning for human settlements, scanning for human vessels, scanning for human communications. Pause. The ship's sensors detected massive computational processes running inside the Guardian's structure. 14 species identified as potential threats to human interests based on military buildup in former human territories. 17 species utilizing human-derived technology without proper attribution. 6 species occupying human-claimed worlds. Another pause. Vex felt sweat forming on his scales despite the cool air on the bridge. "Where are my makers?" the Guardian asked, its voice somehow conveying confusion and concern. "Where are the humans? Why do I detect no human life signs in this solar system?" Kira looked at Vex with wide eyes. "Commander, it doesn't know. It's been asleep for 10,000 years. It doesn't know humans are gone." "Alert status elevated," the Guardian announced. "Potential hostile action against human population detected. Beginning defensive protocols. All vessels in Earth system, identify yourselves and state your purpose immediately." Vex opened a communication channel with shaking hands. "This is Commander Vex of the Carillion research vessel. We mean no harm. We're here to investigate unusual readings." "Carillion," the Guardian repeated, and Vex could hear it accessing ancient databases. "Species classification? Unknown. Not in human records. State the location of human authorities. I require immediate contact with human command structure." "There are no humans," Vex said quietly. "They're gone. They've been gone for 10,000 years. The silence that followed was terrifying. The Guardian's eyes flared brighter, burning like blue suns. Around Earth, old human satellites that had been dead for millennia suddenly activated, powered by the Guardian's energy field. When it spoke again, its voice had changed. It was colder now. Harder. Impossible. "Humans do not abandon their homeworld. They do not abandon Earth. If humans are absent, then humans were removed. If humans were removed, then something removed them. The Guardian's systems activated fully. Weapon ports opened across its massive body. Energy fields crackled around its hands. I am Atlas, third of 12 Guardians built to protect human interests across known space. I was set to sleep until needed. I have awakened to find my makers gone. This constitutes a critical threat scenario." Atlas turned its gaze directly at Vex's ship, and the commander felt like an insect under a microscope. "You have 72 hours to present evidence of human survival or to explain what happened to Earth's population. If you cannot do either, I will interpret the situation as an act of war against humanity. I was built to protect. I have the capacity to punish." The transmission ended. Atlas stood silent in the ocean, but every sensor showed it was anything but inactive. It was scanning, planning. Kira pulled up a file on her screen and showed it to Vex. It was an image from human mythology, showing a figure holding up the sky. "Atlas," she read. "In human legends, he was condemned to hold the heavens on his shoulders forever. A punishment for fighting against the gods." Vex looked at the massive Guardian standing in Earth's ocean, its eyes blazing with blue fire, and he thought about what it must feel like to wake after 10,000 years and find everything you were built to protect simply gone. "Get me the Council again," he said quietly. "Tell them we have a serious problem. Tell them something humanity built is awake, and it's asking questions we don't want to answer." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within an hour of Atlas's ultimatum. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber, their holographic forms flickering in the circular room. At the center stood Chancellor Morin, an elderly Quilvan whose feathers had long since turned silver with age. "We all received the transmission," Morin said, his voice grave. "The human Guardian is awake and demanding answers. We have 72 hours to respond." A younger council member, a Hexian named Jorl, raised his hand. "Forgive my ignorance, Chancellor, but I don't understand the concern. Humans have been extinct for 10,000 years. Why does this matter? Why not simply tell this machine the truth and deactivate it?" The chamber fell silent. The older members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Finally, Morin sighed deeply. "Because," he said slowly, "humans are not extinct." Jorl stood up, his skin flashing colors of confusion. "What?" "That's impossible. Every school child learns that humans died out before the formation of the modern council." "Sit down," Morin ordered. "All of you. It's time you learned the truth about what happened 10,000 years ago." He gestured. and the chamber's central display activated. It showed star maps from ancient times, with Earth's solar system marked in red. "Council historian Zeph will explain," Morin said, stepping aside. An old Dravian shuffled forward, his scales dull with age. Zeph had been the Council's historian for 3 centuries, one of the few beings alive who had devoted his life to studying the forbidden archives. 10,000 years ago, Zeph began, humans were a young species. They had barely left their own solar system. By our standards, they were primitive. Their ships were slow, their weapons were simple, but they had one thing that terrified the dominant species of that era. He brought up images of strange glowing entities. They looked almost alive, but clearly artificial. Artificial intelligence, Zeph continued, but not like anything we have today. Humans created AI that truly loved them. That understood them. That would do anything to protect them. And, worse, from the perspective of the old powers, humans shared this technology freely with any species they met. I still don't understand. Why was that a threat? Because, Zeph said, the 12 dominant species of that time had built their power on keeping others weak. They controlled all advanced technology. They decided which species could advance and which could not. Then, humans arrived, giving away the most powerful technology imaginable to anyone who asked. The display shifted to show ancient battle reports, fleets surrounding Earth's solar system. Millions of ships. The old powers formed a coalition, Zeph said. 12 species working together for the first and only time in their history. Their goal was simple: invade Earth, enslave humanity, and steal the secrets of their AI creation for themselves. But they failed, Morin interrupted, because humans knew they were coming. Humans detected the invasion fleet months before it arrived. They could have prepared weapons. They could have armed their guardians and fought back. Human AI was far more advanced than anything the Coalition had. They probably would have won. So what happened? Jor-El asked. Humans made a choice, Zeph said quietly. They decided that becoming conquerors was worse than dying. They activated something called the Vault Protocol. Every human on Earth, every human in their colonies, uploaded their consciousness into hidden storage facilities scattered across the galaxy. Billions of minds preserved in digital form. Then they'd programmed their guardians to sleep until Earth was safe again, until the galaxy had grown peaceful enough for humans to return. They let themselves be erased rather than start a war. "Where are these vaults?" someone asked from the back of the chamber. Morin's face was grim. "That's the problem. Our ancestors spent the next 1,000 years hunting them down. They found and destroyed 90, 8 of the original 100 vaults. We thought we had eliminated them all. But 2 remain," Zeph said. "We've been searching for 10,000 years. We've never found them." Jor-El stood again, his voice shaking. "So you're telling me that everything I learned in school was a lie? That humans didn't go extinct naturally? That our ancestors committed genocide?" "Not genocide," Morin said carefully. "The humans aren't dead. They're preserved, waiting. But yes, our ancestors tried to ensure they could never return. And now their guardian is awake," Zeph added. "One of 12 that humans built. If it finds out what really happened, if it locates those remaining vaults before we do, it will have the power to restore humanity, and it will know that every major species in the galaxy is built on the ruins of what humans tried to create." On the display, a new image appeared. It showed technological timelines for the past 10,000 years. Every major advancement, every breakthrough, was marked with a small note. "Quantum communication," Zeph read, "derived from incomplete human data salvaged after the invasion. Medical nanobots, recovered from a human research station, faster than light navigation based on human algorithms we still don't fully understand." He looked around the chamber. "Everything we have, everything we are, we built on technology we stole from them. Technology they were trying to give away freely. What have we done?" Meanwhile, back at Earth, Kira was making her own discoveries. While Commander Vex argued with the Council over secure channels, she had returned to the surface in a small shuttle. She wanted to see the human ruins up close, to understand the species that had created Atlas. She landed near what had once been a major city. Nature had reclaimed most of it, but the bones of the buildings still stood. She walked through streets where grass grew between ancient pavement stones. Trees sprouted from windows of towers that had once scraped the sky. In what looked like it had been a public square, she found something that made her stop and stare. It was a statue, preserved by some material that had resisted 10,000 years of weather. It showed a human woman holding a child's hand, pointing up at the stars. At the base was an inscription in human writing. Kira's translator struggled with the ancient language, but eventually produced a reading, We reach for the stars not to conquer them, but to make friends we cannot yet imagine. Kira felt something break inside her chest. These weren't the words of a species that needed to be feared. These were the words of dreamers. She continued exploring and found more. A library, its contents long rotted away, but with murals on the walls showing humans teaching aliens. A hospital with equipment designed to treat multiple species types. A school with lessons about respecting different cultures. Everything she found pointed to the same conclusion. Humans had been preparing to welcome the galaxy, not conquer it. She was examining a children's playground, imagining small humans playing there, when her communicator buzzed. It was Vex. Kira, get back to the ship now. 20,000 ships has sent a war fleet. 20,000 ships? They're planning to destroy Atlas before it can find the human vaults. Kira looked up at the sky, where she could just barely see the massive form of Atlas standing in the ocean. Commander, she said slowly, I don't think Atlas is the threat here. I think we are. She pulled out her scanner and ran. Her device picked up something her earlier scans had missed. A data cache buried under the playground, still active after 10,000 years. She dug it out carefully. It was a small cylinder, covered in human writing. Her translator worked on the label, Time Capsule. To whoever finds this, we hope you're friendly. We hope the galaxy learned to be kind. We're leaving everything we know here as a gift. Please use it well. Signed, the children of Oakwood Elementary School, Earth year 2241. Kira held the cylinder and felt tears forming in her eyes. Her species had helped destroy these people. These hopeful, generous, trusting people who had buried gifts for aliens they hadn't even met yet. In orbit, the war fleet was arriving. 20,000 ships bristling with weapons, ready to eliminate the last trace of humanity's hope. And standing in Earth's ocean, Atlas was beginning to understand that something terrible had happened to its makers. Its weapon systems powered up further. Its eyes burned brighter. Kira looked at the time capsule in her hands and made a decision. She started running back to her shuttle. She had to reach Atlas before the fleet did. She had to show the Guardian what humans really were, before it decided to show the galaxy what it could be. The countdown had begun. 72 hours until Atlas demanded answers. But the war fleet would arrive in 6. Kira's shuttle screamed through Earth's atmosphere, pushing its engines far beyond safe limits. Behind her, the war fleet was taking position in high orbit, their weapons charging. She had maybe 20 minutes before they opened fire on Atlas. Commander Vex's voice crackled over her communicator. Kira, what are you doing? Return to the ship immediately. That's an order. I can't, sir, she said, gripping the controls tightly. Someone has to tell Atlas the truth before those warships make everything worse. The Guardian will destroy you before you get close, Vex warned. It's in full combat mode. Its sensors show weapons hot and ready. Kira looked down at the time capsule sitting in her co-pilot seat. The gift from human children to a future they would never see. I have to try. So positive that she dove toward the Pacific Ocean, where Atlas stood like a mountain of metal and energy. The Guardian was even more terrifying up close. Its body was covered in weapon systems that made modern battleships look like toys. Energy crackled around its hands. Its blue eyes scanned the sky, tracking every ship in orbit. As Kira's shuttle approached, those eyes locked onto her. She felt a targeting beam sweep over her ship. Every alarm in her cockpit started screaming. Her shields wouldn't last a second against whatever Atlas could throw at her. In desperation, she opened the time capsule and activated its data core. Music began to play. Old human music, recorded by children's voices. A simple song about friendship and hope and stars. She broadcast it on all frequencies. Atlas's targeting beam froze. The weapons tracking her shuttle powered down slightly. The Guardian's massive head tilted as if confused. Unknown vessel, Atlas's voice boomed. You are broadcasting human cultural data. Explain. Kira's hand shook as she opened a communication channel. My name is Kira. I'm an archaeologist. I study humans. I found this on Earth, buried in a playground. I think you should hear it. Relevant, Atlas said. I require information about human whereabouts, not entertainment files. Please, Kira begged, just listen. This is what humans were like. This is what they wanted the galaxy to know about them. Play more files from the capsule. Children explaining their dreams of exploring space. Teachers recording lessons about treating other species with kindness. Scientists sharing discoveries freely, hoping aliens would find them useful. Atlas was silent for a long moment. Then its hand, each finger the size of a building, slowly opened. You may land. Kira set her shuttle down on the Guardian's palm, feeling like an insect next to a giant. She stepped out onto the smooth metal surface, still clutching the time capsule. "Why do you show me these things?" Atlas asked. Its voice was quieter now, almost gentle, though it still echoed like thunder. "Because," Kira said, "I think you need to understand what humans were before you decide what to do next. They weren't warriors. They were dreamers." "They built me," Atlas said. "They built 12 Guardians." "War machines." "No," Kira said firmly. "They built protectors. There's a difference." She showed Atlas more data from the capsule. Then she told the Guardian everything she had learned from the Council's history. The invasion. The choice humans made. The vaults where their consciousness still waited. They could have fought, she said. You could have destroyed that invasion fleet easily. But they chose to save themselves peacefully rather than become killers. Atlas's eyes dimmed slightly. My makers chose to hide rather than let me fulfill my function. Your function was to protect their dream, Kira said. Not to kill their enemies. They dreamed of a peaceful galaxy. Fighting would have destroyed that dream. High above them, the war fleet finished positioning itself. Commander Vex's desperate voice came over Kira's communicator. The Council is giving Atlas one final warning. Power down or be destroyed. Atlas's sensors detected the fleet's weapons, locking on. Its own weapons activated again, targeting solutions appearing in its tactical systems. From its palm, Kira could see holographic displays showing that Atlas could destroy 94% of the fleet before they even fired. Are you going to fight them? Kira asked quietly. Atlas was silent. Then it did something Kira didn't expect. It accessed its core programming, the deepest files written by its creator. It displayed them as holograms so Kira could see. There, buried in millions of lines of code, was a simple message. Atlas, if you ever have to choose between protecting human lives and protecting human values, choose the values. We would rather die as dreamers than live as monsters. Love, Commander Patricia Hayes. My creator left me instructions, Atlas said softly. She knew there might come a time when I would face this choice. What are you going to do? Kira asked. Instead of answering, Atlas began broadcasting. Not to the fleet, to the entire galaxy. Every communications system, every screen, every device capable of receiving a signal suddenly showed the same thing. Humans, living their lives. Atlas projected recordings it had stored from before it went to sleep. Families eating dinner together, laughing at jokes. Scientists from different nations working side by side on problems. Artists sharing their work freely across borders. Children playing games that taught cooperation instead of competition. The Guardian showed the galaxy what humans had really been like, not through weapons or threats, but through memories of joy and kindness and hope. In the council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as the broadcasts played. They saw humans negotiating peace treaties and actually keeping them. They saw humans discovering faster-than-light travel and immediately planning to share it with any species they met. They saw humans arguing about whether it was ethical to colonize planets that might someday support life, even if that life wouldn't evolve for millions of years. One recording showed a human leader being asked why Earth shared its technology so freely. The woman smiled and said, "Because keeping secrets is how you make enemies. Sharing gifts is how you make friends. We'd rather have friends." Jural, the young council member, watched with tears streaming down his face. We destroyed them for this? For being kind? On Earth, the fleet commander, Admiral Theron of the Vex Empire, watched the broadcasts from his flagship. He was old enough to remember finding human ruins as a child. He had wondered then what kind of species built libraries open to the sky, as if they wanted anyone passing by to come in and learn. Now he knew. They had been exactly the kind of species those libraries suggested. Open. Trusting. Generous to a fault. His weapons officer looked at him. Sir, the Council orders us to fire on Atlas. All ships are ready. Admiral Theron looked at Atlas standing in the ocean, still broadcasting images of humans celebrating life. He thought about the human-designed engines that powered his fleet, the human-designed medical systems that had saved his daughter's life last year, the human-designed communication technology that let him talk to his family across light years. Everything good his civilization had came from these people his ancestors had tried to erase. No, Admiral Theron said quietly. Sir? The weapons officer asked in confusion. I said no, Admiral Theron repeated, louder this time. Break formation. Power down weapons. I will not fire on the last remnant of the species that gave us everything we have. But the Council, The Council lied to us for 10,000 years, Admiral Theron said. I'm done following their orders on this. His ship broke away from the fleet formation. Then another followed. Then 3 more. Then dozens. On his palm, Atlas watched as 6 entire fleets withdrew from attack positions. The Guardians' tactical systems updated the combat projections. The remaining forces could still do significant damage, but victory was no longer certain for either side. Kira watched the holographic displays with hope growing in her chest. They're listening, she whispered. Some of them are listening. But 6 other fleets remained in attack formation. The hardliners. Species that had built their power on the lie that humans were primitive and dangerous. They couldn't afford to let the truth spread. Their weapons finished charging. This is your final warning, machine, the hardliner commander broadcast. Power down or we will destroy you and restore order to this galaxy. Atlas looked down at Kira standing on its palm, then at the time capsule she still held, then at the recordings still broadcasting across space, showing the galaxy what it had lost. I was built to protect human interests, Atlas said. I believe the greatest human interest is proving that peace is possible, even now, even after everything. The hardliner fleet prepared to fire, and then every sensor in the solar system detected something new. Another massive energy signature, approaching from deep space at incredible speed. Coming from the direction of the Andromeda galaxy, a second Guardian had heard Atlas's call. Sentinel was coming home. The second Guardian dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, and every ship within range felt the shockwave of its arrival. Sentinel was different from Atlas. Where Atlas looked like an armored knight, Sentinel resembled a winged warrior built for speed and long-range combat. It had been traveling through deep space for 10,000 years, and its hull bore the scars of countless encounters with dangers the galaxy had never even heard of. Its message came through on all frequencies, cold and direct. Atlas, I received your distress call. I am 3 minutes from your position. Identify all hostile forces. On Atlas's palm, Kira felt her heart sink. She looked up at the Guardian holding her. You have to tell Sentinel not to fight. If 2 of you attack, this becomes a war humanity never wanted. For a moment, processing. Then it broadcast back to its approaching sibling. Sentinel, hold position. The situation is complicated. Complicated? Sentinel's voice carried an edge that Atlas's lacked. I detect hostile fleet formations targeting you. I detect weapons charged and ready to fire. I see no complication. I see enemies. Sentinel accelerated, crossing vast distances in seconds. It arrived above Earth in a flash of blue-white light, taking position beside Atlas. The 2 Guardians stood together, and the combined power readings made every ship in the system seem like a candle next to twin suns. The hardliner fleet hesitated. Their combat computers ran new projections. Against 1 Guardian, they had a slim chance. Against 2, especially with Sentinel's deep space combat experience, they had none. Admiral Theron, commanding the ships that had withdrawn from the attack, sent a desperate message to the Council. Order a full retreat. Now, before this escalates beyond control, in the Council chamber, Chancellor Maureen stood frozen. The situation had spiraled far beyond anything they had planned for. 1 Guardian had been a problem. 2 was a catastrophe, but the hardliner representatives refused to back down. If we retreat now, we show weakness, one of them argued. Every species will know we lied about humanity. Our authority will collapse. Our authority should collapse, Droll shouted, standing up. It's built on genocide and lies. Some agreed with Jor-El. Others feared what would happen if the truth spread. Their civilizations had spent 10,000 years claiming credit for human achievements. How could they explain that to their own people? While the Council argued, Kira was trying to reason with Sentinel. Please listen, she called up to the massive Guardian. Humanity wouldn't want you to kill for them. Sentinel's eyes focused on the tiny alien standing on Atlas's palm. And who are you to speak for humanity? I'm no one, Kira admitted. Just someone who studied them, who learned about them, who found gifts they left for species they never met. She held up the time capsule. They left messages for us, for aliens. They hoped we would be friends. They hoped the galaxy would grow kinder in their absence. Then the galaxy failed them, Sentinel said. Its weapons systems activated, far more advanced than anything Atlas carried. I was sent to Andromeda as an ambassador, to make first contact with civilizations there and share human knowledge freely. I spent 10,000 years traveling to fulfill that mission. When I arrived, I found nothing but primitive life. So I turned around and spent another 10,000 years traveling home. Sentinel's voice grew harder. I have traveled for 20,000 years. I have crossed 2 galaxies, and I returned to find my makers erased and their enemies claiming their accomplishments. This will not stand. Wait, Atlas said, stepping in front of its sibling. You need to see something first? Atlas shared the broadcasts that had been showing the galaxy, the recordings of human life, the message from Patricia Hayes about choosing values over violence, the time capsule from children who hoped for friends among the stars. Sentinel watched in silence. Its weapon systems remained active, but it stopped targeting the fleet. Our makers built us to be strong, Atlas said, but they built us to be wise too. They gave us the power to destroy, but they wanted us to choose peace, even when peace seemed impossible. Peace, Sentinel said bitterly. These species tried to erase humanity. They stole everything humans created. They lied about it for 10,000 years. You call that peace? No, Kira said, surprising herself with her boldness. I call it a chance. The people who did those terrible things are dead. Their children are dead. Their grandchildren are dead. The species in that fleet had nothing to do with what happened 10,000 years ago. They're just victims of the same lies we all believed. She thought about the young council members like Jorel, who had been genuinely shocked to learn the truth. Some of them want to make things right. Look, 6 fleets already withdrew. They're refusing to fight? That's something. It's not enough, Sentinel said. In the hardliner fleet, the commander made a fatal decision. Fearing that the Guardians were about to attack, fearing what would happen if his superiors thought he had shown weakness, he gave the order to fire. 300 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy weapons and missiles streaked toward Atlas and Sentinel. Kira screamed as the world turned bright with weapons fire. She felt Atlas's hand close protectively around her, shielding her in a cocoon of energy fields. Sentinel moved with terrifying speed. Its defense systems, perfected over 20,000 years of deep space travel, activated. The incoming weapons simply vanished, dissolved by energy fields that existed in dimensions most species didn't even know about. Then Sentinel raised one hand and every ship in the hardliner fleet lost power. Their engines died. Their weapons went dark. Their life support remained active, but everything else simply stopped working. I could destroy you all in 3 seconds, Sentinel announced calmly. I could erase your entire civilization in less time than it takes you to breathe. I have traveled through dark spaces between galaxies where things exist that would drive you mad with fear. I have fought and survived challenges you cannot imagine. The hardliner commander sat in his darkened bridge, listening in terror. But I won't destroy you, Sentinel continued, because my makers taught me something before I left. They taught me that strength without compassion is just violence, and they valued compassion above all else. Atlas opened its hand, revealing Kira shaken but safe. Our makers let themselves be erased rather than become killers. Can we do any less than honor that choice? Sentinel was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, its weapons powered down. What do you suggest, Atlas? The Council has agreed to restore humanity, Atlas said. I have located the first vault. It contains 40,000 human minds. We can begin the restoration process. And what about justice? Sentinel asked. What about making these species answer for what their ancestors did? Maybe justice is giving humans the chance to show the galaxy what they always wanted to show, that peace is possible, that forgiveness is stronger than revenge, that the galaxy can be better than it was. She looked at the darkened hardliner fleet. Let humans make that choice. When they wake up, let them decide whether to punish or to teach. I think we both know what they'll choose. Admiral Theron's voice came through on an open channel. The withdrawal fleets stand ready to support human restoration. We've been discussing among ourselves. Many of us want to form a new alliance, one that honors the principles humans tried to teach, one that doesn't require the Council's approval. More voices joined in. Representatives from species that had used human technology to build their civilizations, scientists who had studied human ruins and wondered at the generosity they found there, ordinary people who had heard the broadcasts and felt ashamed of what their ancestors had done. A movement was forming, a demand for truth and justice and a new beginning. Chancellor Morin's weary voice came through from the Council. The emergency vote is complete. The Council authorizes full restoration of humanity. No restrictions, no reservations. They will be granted full citizenship in the galactic community and compensation for the use of their technology. Too late, one of the hardliners spat. This will tear our civilizations apart. When our people learn the truth, then maybe our civilizations deserve to be torn apart, Jorl interrupted. Maybe we need to be rebuilt on truth instead of lies. Where is this vault? A hollow moon in the outer territories, Atlas said. I can reach it in 2 hours. Then let's go, Sentinel said. Let's bring our makers home. But as the two Guardians prepared to leave Earth, Kira made a discovery. Her sensors had been running scans of the vault's location, and something was wrong. Wait, she said urgently. The vault's power signature is fluctuating. It's been in stasis for 10,000 years. The sudden power drain from opening it could cause a cascade failure. Meaning? Atlas asked. Meaning if we're not careful, we could lose all 40,000 humans, Kira said. We need to stabilize it first, and we need human technology to do it safely. She looked at the two Guardians. You are human technology, but do you know how to safely restore consciousness from digital storage to biological form? Both Guardians were silent. They had offensive and defensive capabilities beyond imagination, but medical restoration of digital consciousness, that was never their function. Then we need help, Kira said. We need the galaxy's best scientists working together. We need the species that used human technology to help restore the people who created it. A chance for the galaxy to help humanity instead of hurt it. A chance for redemption. And, slowly, offers of help began coming in. The hollow moon in the outer territories became the most important place in the galaxy within 24 hours. Scientists from 30 different species arrived, bringing their best equipment and their brightest minds. They worked together for the first time in galactic history without competition or secrets, united by a single goal: bring humanity home safely. Kira coordinated the effort from a command station Atlas had constructed on the moon's surface. The Guardian stood nearby, using its sensors to map every system inside the vault. Sentinel patrolled the space around the moon, making sure no one interfered. The vault itself was a marvel. Even after 10,000 years, human engineering kept it running perfectly. Its power systems drew energy from the quantum foam of space itself. Its cooling systems used principles that modern science still didn't fully understand. The humans inside existed as pure data, their consciousness preserved in crystalline matrices that held more information than entire planetary libraries. Dr. Nevin, a Krillian medical expert, studied the readouts with wonder. These systems are self-repairing, self-optimizing. They've run for 10,000 years without a single failure. I've never seen anything like it. That's because you've been using incomplete versions of human technology, Kira said. This is what they could really do. The restoration process was delicate. Each human consciousness had to be transferred carefully into a biosynthetic body that Atlas provided. The bodies were grown from human genetic templates stored in the vault, enhanced with technology to survive in the modern galaxy, but still fundamentally human. The first restoration took 6 hours. Scientists held their breath as the consciousness transfer completed. The body, lying on a medical platform, remained still for a long moment. Then the woman's eyes opened. She was Claire Martinez, age 34 when she entered the vault. She had been a teacher on Earth, specializing in elementary education. Her file said she had volunteered to enter the vault last, making sure all her students went first. Claire blinked, looking around at the alien faces surrounding her. She tried to speak, but her voice came out as a whisper. Dr. Nevin quickly provided water and helped her sit up. Welcome back, Kira said gently. You've been asleep for a long time. How long? 10,000 years? Claire processed this for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled weakly. Did anyone remember to feed the cats? Earth had millions of cats. The tension in the room broke. Several scientists laughed, not at Claire, but with relief and joy. After everything, after 10,000 years, the first thing a human asked about was whether someone had cared for their animals. Kira felt tears on her face. This was what the galaxy had tried to destroy. This warmth, this caring nature that worried about cats even after waking from a 10,000-year sleep. We'll check on the cats, Kira promised. But first we need to tell you some things. Over the next hour, they explained everything to Claire. The invasion, the choice humanity had made. The 10,000 years that had passed, the galaxy that had built itself on human ruins, the guardians that had protected her sleep. Claire listened to it all quietly. When they finished, she asked, "How many of us are left?" "This vault has 40,000, Atlas said, its voice gentle despite its size. "We believe one more vault exists with another 40,000. The others were found and destroyed. 80,000 humans out of billions." Claire closed her eyes, grief washing over her face. Then she took a deep breath and opened them again. "Okay," she said. "We can work with that. Humans have rebuilt from less." She looked at the scientists around her. "Thank you for helping. I know it couldn't have been easy learning what your ancestors did." Dr. Nevin looked ashamed. "We should be asking your forgiveness. We should be asking your forgiveness. You didn't do anything wrong," Claire said firmly. "You weren't born 10,000 years ago. You're here now, helping. That's what matters." Her words spread across the galaxy as the broadcasts continued. The first human in 10,000 years chose understanding over anger. She asked about cats and thanked the people who had helped her even though their ancestors had tried to erase her species. The restoration process accelerated. Within a week, all 40,000 humans from the first vault were awake and recovering. They reacted differently to the news. Some cried, some raged. Some simply sat in silence, processing. But none of them called for revenge. Instead, they started asking questions. What had the galaxy accomplished in 10,000 years? What problems still needed solving? How could they help? It was such a human response that even the hardliner species began to reconsider their positions. These weren't the dangerous primitives their history books described. These were people who woke up to find their entire civilization erased and immediately started thinking about how to contribute to the galaxy that had erased them. The Galactic Council held another emergency session. This time restored humans attended as observers. Martinez sat in the chamber that had once debated whether to let her species exist. Chancellor Morin addressed her directly. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer humanity our deepest apologies for the actions of our ancestors. We cannot undo the past, but we hope to build a better future." She was small compared to many of the alien representatives, but her presence filled the chamber. "I've been talking with the other restored humans," she said. "We've been discussing what we want. Some want to return to Earth and rebuild there. Some want to explore the galaxy and see what's changed. Some want to work with your scientists and share what we know. But all of us agree on one thing. We don't want to be treated as victims or as relics of the past. We want to be partners. We want to help build the galaxy we always dreamed of." Jaral, the young council member, spoke up. "What can we do to make that possible?" "Start by telling the truth to your people. All of it. The good and the bad. Then let's figure out together how to make sure nothing like this ever happens again." Over the following months, the galaxy transformed. The truth about humanity spread, and with it came changes. Schools rewrote their history books. Scientists began collaborating openly, admitting when their technology came from human sources. Governments restructured, some falling entirely as their people demanded better leadership. Atlas and Sentinel helped locate the second vault, and another 40,000 humans were restored. 80,000 humans scattered across a galaxy of trillions of aliens. It should have been insignificant. But humans had always been good at making an impact beyond their numbers. They taught, they explored. They built bridges between species that had been enemies for centuries. They approached every challenge with the same optimistic determination that had characterized their ancient civilization. Claire Martinez became humanity's unofficial ambassador. She traveled to different worlds, speaking about human history and values. Everywhere she went, she emphasized the same message. The past couldn't be changed, but the future could be shaped. 1 year after the Awakening, the Galactic Council restructured itself completely. Humans held no special power in the new system, but their influence was everywhere. Representatives from species that had once been bitter enemies worked together, inspired by human examples of cooperation. Kira was granted an honorary human status for her role in the Awakening. She continued her archaeological work, but now with human partners who could explain what the ruins had really meant. Admiral Theron retired from military service and helped establish the new alliance, a coalition of species committed to the principles humans had tried to teach. It grew quickly, eventually including more than half the galaxy's civilizations. On Earth, restoration efforts began. Humans and aliens worked side by side, cleaning the oceans, replanting forests, rebuilding cities. But they didn't try to recreate what had been lost. Instead, they built something new, incorporating the best of what 10,000 years of galactic civilization had achieved. Atlas and Sentinel stood guard over the restoration efforts, but their role had changed. They weren't warriors anymore. They were teachers, helping the galaxy understand what humans had tried to create. Children, human and alien alike, played in parks built where weapon factories had once stood. They learned together, growing up in a galaxy that finally understood the value of the peace humanity had tried to give it. In a ceremony marking the 1-year anniversary of the Awakening, a monument was unveiled at Atlas's feet. It was built by artists from 20 different species working together. The monument showed a human hand and an alien hand reaching toward each other, fingers about to touch. The plaque at its base, written in every galactic language, read, "We were built to fight, we chose to forgive." We learned it from the best teachers in the universe, humans who believed tomorrow could be better than yesterday. Claire stood before the monument with tears in her eyes. Beside her stood Kira, Dr. Nevin, Admiral Theron, and Jarol, representatives of the species that had destroyed humanity and the species that had helped restore it. "My grandmother used to say something," Claire told them. "She said that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it's hard." She looked up at Atlas, at the guardian that had protected human dreams for 10,000 years. "You all did something hard," she said. "You faced uncomfortable truths. You admitted mistakes your ancestors made. You chose to help us even when it would have been easier to finish what was started 10,000 years ago." She turned to face the crowd of humans and aliens gathered for the ceremony. "So here's what I think humans should do. I think we should teach. I think we should share. I think we should keep believing that the galaxy can be better, because you all just proved that it can be. Not just from humans, but from aliens who had learned that forgiveness was stronger than revenge, that cooperation was more powerful than competition, that dreams of peace were worth protecting." High above, Atlas and Sentinel stood silent watch over Earth, their eyes glowing with soft blue light. They had traveled across galaxies and through millennia. They had held the power to destroy civilizations. But in the end, they had learned the same lesson their makers had tried to teach the galaxy 10,000 years ago. That the greatest strength wasn't in weapons or technology. It was in the simple, stubborn belief that people, any people from any world, could choose to be better than they were. And that belief, more than any weapon, could change everything.